right, so we will now segue into the presentation of one of, or I'm going to call him the worldwide expert on LinkedIn, which is AJ Wilcox. AJ, are you ready, or do you need a few minutes?
Absolutely. How's my audio?
Audio's great.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll turn on camera here. Sorry if
Okay.
I made anyone sweat. I had
No
back-to-back meetings.
No problem.
Cool. All right, I will do my share screen thing. Let
Okay.
me know. And first of all, thank you for the ultra kind intro.
You're welcome.
Can you see my deck up?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is about advanced LinkedIn ads. So I'm going to approach this from the perspective of like, you've already run some ads, maybe you're currently running some. And so we're going to pack some of the advanced stuff in. But if any of this is over your head, I will definitely have resources for you to go and like get caught up on the early parts, the steps that come before this. But I really wanted to make sure that you guys had incredible information here that will be super valuable to anyone who's actually running their account. So my background, I started in SEO and PPC about 13 years ago. Really just ended up falling in love with LinkedIn ads about 10 years ago. And it was a very different platform back then, but a lot of the same rules still apply. Strategies that I've honed over the last 10 years still work today. So I'm excited to share some of that stuff with you. Important to note that a lot of what I share with you, your LinkedIn ad reps will tell you is wrong and they won't like it and they will fight you on it. So make sure you armor up. But it doesn't change the fact that they work. And just because LinkedIn doesn't like it because they don't make as much money off of you, it means you're going to be a lot more efficient. I would love if you just throw into the chat. I won't be able to check until like later on, maybe in Q&A, but I'd love to hear kind of what your experience is with LinkedIn ads. And then I definitely will be around for the panel discussion afterwards. And I'd love to take questions then as well. So the big challenges that we have with LinkedIn ads are, number one, the cost. We know that in North America, we pay an average of like $8 to $12 per click, which is insane when you consider that Facebook might be $2 to $3 per click for B2B. And Google's obviously kind of all over the board there. So that's our first real big challenge. And then the others kind of follow close behind. There's no device level bidding like we have on every other platform. So if your landing pages suck for mobile, sorry, like you just have to be okay with that. And they don't have native day parting or ad scheduling like you can get on pretty much, again, every other platform. So we actually went and built our own day parting scheduling tool. So if that's interesting, I'll have some more information here at the end as well. And then there is this metric called relevancy score that on Google, it's called quality score. On Facebook, it's relevance score. On Twitter, it's called quality adjusted bid for some reason. LinkedIn has the same kind of thing. They call it their relevancy score, but you don't see it anywhere. The only place where you can see it is if you download a report from your platform. And even then, we have no idea how old that metric is. Is this something cached from like weeks ago, months ago? Is it an overall average? It's a big black box that no one can see. So the goal then in what I'm going to share with you, the goal in managing an evergreen LinkedIn ads account is going to be either efficiency or scale. That's generally what it is. And of course, we always wish that we can scale up significantly while keeping efficiency where it is, or maybe even increasing. But those are really the two focuses that you should have. You should only have one at a time, is what I would posit. Because the costs are so high on LinkedIn, what it means is in order to mitigate your risk, you will want to do a few things. So the first is avoid LinkedIn's best practices. Things like they will tell everyone, you should be using audience expansion, which just muddies your audience. It lets people in that you wouldn't normally target. And with the amount that you're paying, I would highly recommend you be ultra specific about who you're going after and not leave that up to LinkedIn. Also, the default bid setting that they will drop you on is it used to be called auto bidding. Now it's called like automated delivery for impressions. It's the most expensive way to pay about 90% of the time. So you want to avoid that. You want to start by bidding by max cost per click and start by bidding low. Again, your reps are going to hate this. They're going to tell you that you're not bidding aggressively enough. But the proof will be in the pudding when your cost per lead is a fifth of what they recommend. And yeah, here are some benchmarks. This is a really good slide to just take a screenshot of. I also have a podcast episode all about benchmarks that you could go listen to if you want. But this is basically where you're shooting from. If you're running sponsored content, if your click-through rates are anything over about 0.4%, you can pat yourself on the back. You're in the right range. If you're paying less than about $8 per click, and you're targeting in North America, that's absolutely a great sign. And if you have conversion rates that are in excess of 15% for a free content download, you're doing great. If you're pushing people to a hard offer, like talk to sales or buy something, get a demo, take a trial, if you're anywhere between that like 1.5% to 4%, you're about average there. This slide is, I don't have time to walk you through kind of the economic style graph here, but what it is meant to show you is that when you are below about this 1% click-through rate here, I'll switch this to a pointer. When you're below about 1% in click-through rate, it is cheaper to bid by cost per click. And when you are above about 1% click-through rate, it is cheaper to bid by cost per impression. And the easiest way to bid by cost per impression is that auto bid. So I mentioned it's the most expensive way to pay 90% of the time, but you 10% of awesome advertisers who have ads that are getting clicked on like 3 times the average rate, that's when you want to be using the auto bidding. This is the strategy that I will recommend. That again, I say armor up here. Your reps are not going to like you for it. So when you go in to do the bidding, it looks a little bit different now, but you can see LinkedIn's going to show you other similar advertisers are bidding between $13.77 and $23.15. Sorry, if you're paying $13 and above for clicks, chances are you're doing something wrong. But LinkedIn will tell you you should be happy paying those astronomical numbers. I think that's absolute garbage. Unless you've got a teeny audience of like just the Fortune 500 CEOs or something, you really shouldn't need to be in this range. So instead, what you do is you just go and put a really low number in there, like $2, $4, whatever. And then LinkedIn's going to come up and say, "Oh, your bid needs to be at least," and they'll give you a number. That's where you know your floor bid is. So what you want to do is start with your budgets high, your daily budgets, just so you don't trip them. You want to get a feel for what your audience is capable of spending, and then set your bids at the absolute floor. So in this case, the floor bid is $5. Great. Set it at $5 for a couple days and just see. If you still spend your budget, congratulations. You just hit the jackpot. You bid the lowest amount possible that LinkedIn will let you, and you still filled your whole budget. You got all the traffic that you wanted. If, however, you underspend your actual budget, let's say you want to spend $50 per day, but you're only spending $20, then you will come in here and increase your bid, 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever there. If you, and I think here's the saying that I really like. If you hit your daily budget during the day, it means you paid too much for your clicks along the way. That can probably get simplified, but the idea is that if you set your daily budget low enough that you're hitting it, then it means you're bidding too high. You're paying too much. Here's the flow chart that I go through in my mind. So if I'm getting click-through rates less than about 0.35%, then I know there's something wrong. Like that's significantly below LinkedIn's benchmark, where it's actually pretty easy to beat their benchmark. If you're somewhere in between, let's say like the 0.35 to 1%, then you're doing well. You're beating the average. Keep going. And you might have to bid up if you want to get more traffic. And then if you are above 1%, that's when you want to change your bid type to CPM. If you're not using the auto bidding, you'll want to bid high and bid aggressively, but auto bidding just does that for you. It's basically a max bid CPM kind of bid. I mentioned that there wasn't the ability to do some sort of scheduling or day parting. So we actually built our own tool. And the reason why, if you look at this graph, the purple line here is the inventory supply. So you get here to like the morning when people start logging in and getting into work, and you'll see that the inventory peaks around that time. And then, you get till like late afternoon, fewer people are using it. And then late at night, no one's using it. Well, because this is an economics curve, and you have to assume that your supply of advertisers is constant because people aren't day parting. What that means is price is going to be an inverse of this. So if you follow the price curve, when no one is online, like early morning, that's when you're going to be paying the highest amount for that traffic. Not great, right? But then when people start logging on in the morning and people are ready to convert, they're fresh for the day, that's the best time to be showing ads. Oh, and that happens to be when it's also the cheapest. So check that out. You'll have to understand for your own target audience if they fit this mold, but check that out and feel free to use our scheduling tool. If you schedule 3 or fewer campaigns every day, it's free indefinitely. I do want to do a quick time check because I kind of, how am I doing, Dave?
You're doing fine.
Okay, cool. I have plenty more information here, but just like break in, cut me off anytime I start to go over, because boy, I will.
Okay.
Okay. Some great advanced targeting tactics that you should be using on your accounts. The first is, if you are using skill targeting or group targeting, I would automatically recommend using job function exclusions on those campaigns. And the reason why is because a lot of people who are trying to sell to your target audience, they are in sales, they're in marketing, and they're of course interested in what other people are saying to their audience. So they will click on your ads, but they will not be your customer. Think of them as your competitors. So if you're, let's say you're going after IT or something, IT skills or IT groups, if you exclude the marketers and the sales folks and the biz dev, that will get rid of everyone who's a would-be competitor there and just tightens up your audience. Also, if you are targeting small to medium-sized businesses, what we have on LinkedIn is this issue of company sizes that are known and declared and company sizes that are unknown and undeclared. And so what happens if you go in and you're explicitly saying, I want to target companies that are 50 people and below, what you're getting are the companies who have declared that they have 50 or fewer employees. But what you're missing is the other half of the population that is at a small company who never saw the value in creating a LinkedIn company page so that they could declare their company size. So if you want small companies, instead of explicitly saying, I want 1 through 10, 1 through 10 and then 11 through 50, instead what you do is you exclude 51 and above. And what that does is it leaves you with those who have explicitly said, I'm less than 50, as well as the unknowns, which are probably going to be less than 50 because they tend to be smaller companies. If you've ever been tempted to use the age targeting or years of experience targeting, just be aware that those are both inferred metrics, and LinkedIn's wrong a lot of the time. So it's a lot better for you to just use seniority when you can, because seniority is a lot more accurate. And then with pretty much every audience, I mentioned this earlier, pretty much every campaign you create, LinkedIn's going to auto check the enable audience expansion. And I just want to tell you, like, avoid it like COVID. It is, this is poison for your ads campaigns. And LinkedIn really thinks that you should be using it, which I vehemently disagree. I can tell when I look at an account whether someone came into LinkedIn ads from the paid search side of things, or whether they came from like managing organic social and then kind of being handed the keys to spend some money. Um, and the way I can find this out, if you've come from a paid search background where account organization is really important to you, chances are you'll name your campaigns in a really smart way. You'll name them things like after the audience that you're targeting and the ad format you're using and the geography you're targeting, that kind of thing. Organic social folks tend to say, oh, I'm doing this big webinar push, so I'm going to name this campaign, Webinar 2021. I would highly recommend approach it from the paid search perspective here. Name all of your campaigns and audiences after who, like the things that are not going to change about that audience. That's the ad format, the language, the ad type, and the targeting that you're using. Don't name it after the bid type you're going to use, because you can always change your bid type. And don't name it after the campaign that you're running right now, whether it's like a webinar or an ebook, because as you make these temporary campaigns that only live for a little while, you're going to mess up your account. You're going to dirty it by adding a whole bunch of campaigns that are throwaway, and you won't be able to use them in the future. What you want to do, think of your account as being more of an evergreen example of advertising, and name your campaigns after the audiences that you'll want to go after, and then continue to invest in those same campaigns for a long period of time. When you're done with this webinar, just pause the webinar ads and then launch your new ebook ads or whatever. LinkedIn will regularly recommend that your audience sizes are at least 300,000 people. Again, I disagree wholeheartedly. I think audiences between about 20,000 to 80,000 are really my sweet spot. If I have an audience with more than that in there, then what I would prefer to do is break that into two. Find something that differentiates, bifurcates that audience so that I can have two separate campaigns and then I can learn from the difference. So if I'm going after, like, let's say, senior IT leaders, what I might do is say, okay, I'm going to put VPs in one campaign and then CIOs and CTOs in another, and that way I can see the difference of engagement between the VP level and the C-suite. I'm going to kind of blaze through the account-based marketing because I'm fairly certain that I won't make it through everything. And then again, Dave, feel free to just interrupt me at any time.
Okay.
So with account-based marketing, this is account-based marketing where you can target specific accounts by name or specific companies. It's all the rage right now, but LinkedIn Ads has had this ability since 2008 when it very first came out. And it's just become stronger and stronger with the advent of being able to upload a list of companies. So definitely take advantage of this if you can. Some of the ways that we use this is we will upload lists of our sales dream accounts. We can go to sales and we can ask them, what are the dream accounts that you would love to work with, and add those to a targeting. You can also do the same thing with upload a list of your competitors and add them as an exclusion. That's pretty sweet. You can do the same thing with your customers. Exclude your customers from your ads so that you're not paying for someone that you've already acquired. If you're in SaaS software or something where you might want to target your current customers to let them know about something new and cool that's coming up, then that's another thing you can do, is kind of reduce churn by getting on people's radars. And then something else we like to do, target those who are already in your funnel but have not yet closed, and have it act like a funnel accelerator. Anyone who gets real geeky on LinkedIn ads, make sure to subscribe to my podcast. It's called the LinkedIn Ads Show. We're about 45 episodes in, and we have everything from interviews with LinkedIn product managers to solo episodes of me just sharing deep strategy. So it's really a masterclass. Check that out. And I mentioned that I'd have some resources for you in case this is over your head, if you're not already advertising. If you go to our website, b2linked.com/checklist, you can download, it's the same checklist we give to all of our new onboarding clients. And it's the 8 things that you need in order to get started. So hopefully that gives you a nice leg up if you're just looking to get advertising. Okay, with that being said, I'm pretty sure I've hit my limit.
No, you did fine. You did great.
Yeah.
Great information. Well presented as usual. In fact, the first 2 comments were amazing content and AJ is awesome.
You guys are you 2 are my 2 favorites now. Thank you.
So 2 quick questions. What types of products should not be promoted in LinkedIn?
I think anything with a low lifetime value is a candidate for being kind of nixed by LinkedIn. Just because the costs are so high, it means that they have priced themselves out of the market for certain types of categories. So if you're in, lifetime values of, let's say, $5,000 less, maybe even up to 10,000, it's a possibility that LinkedIn is going to be too expensive for you. We've also found that we've tried a whole bunch of times with some form of e-commerce, and we haven't found e-commerce to cold audiences to be a fit at all. So those are probably my 2 big ones.
Gotcha. Okay, next question. The benchmark numbers that you talked about, is the click-through rate for engagement or website clicks?
Ooh, good question. This is actually any sort of click on the ad. So if you're running an engagement objective, that would be any sort of click on the ad, like, comment, share, follow company. But if you're running one that's website traffic or website conversion, this would be a click on the ad that would result in a trip to the landing page. So I would say, if you are driving traffic or if you're using lead forms, consider these click through, not engagement. Because naturally, if you're running an engagement ad, you will see more people clicking, but they're not necessarily the actions that you'd hope for.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, this is a tough one. Typically, how long should an ad run before making edits?
Ooh, I like it. Okay, so if your goal is testing and you want to do A/B testing through and figure out what's working and what's not, you may want to switch up after. If my first 3 days of running an ad are bad, I can tell that this is not working, then I'll switch something up and try again. But if I'm running something that is working really well, I don't want to disrupt that, because we know with social, everything has a time to live on it, like a finite life. And so if I switch something up that was working, chances are I'm going to switch to something that wasn't working as well. So I do want to run that for as long as I can before it stops performing well. And on average, that's about every 27 to 33 days when it's due for a refresh.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Okay, for higher ed graduate programs, CPC and CPA are very high. Narrowing down more granularity doesn't help. Group targeting doesn't work. How do we make it broad and relevant?
Our hands are kind of tied for graduate level stuff. The targeting you have available to you is things like, what did they get their degree in? And do they not have a more advanced degree, a master's or a PhD yet? And what they studied, where they went to school. So if you're using all of those, your hands are kind of tied. That's the limit, really, of the educational information that LinkedIn knows about them. So I would say try to do whatever you can to get click-through rates up on your ads. If you can find something to offer that other schools have not been offering, then your costs will drop and you'll get a ton more traffic. So that's really the key. Find something interesting and valuable to present to them and get costs down that way.
Right. You talked about ABM. Um, how do you deal with the fact that some of the audience sizes end up being so minuscule?
Yeah. We see this a lot. If you're targeting small companies, let's say you're targeting VPs and above of a whole bunch of small companies, you may end up with just a teeny audience, and that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
you've got 100 companies, and there's an average of about 3 people at each company who fit that description. Yeah, you'll end up with about 300 people. So generally, what we try to do is just collect a larger list, and sometimes that's not possible. So instead, what you might want to do is enlarge the number of people in the organization that you're going to match. So let's say you really care about executives, but it's not large enough to go after. Consider adding directors and maybe even managers into the audience to get it larger. It's the problem that we always face with social, because social click-through rates are so small. It's basically like display advertising, and because of that, you need a pretty large audience to really spend meaningful amounts of money. So try to expand your audience in whatever way makes the most sense.
Great. Okay, last question before we go to the general Q&A. How reliable is LinkedIn in making decisions between ads? Um, I see that when I upload 2 to 3 variants, it quickly decides which one gets more impressions.
Yeah, this is a really good question. My recommendation is to always run 2 creative at a time, because, and I found the same thing to be true with all the other ad platforms as well. But if I launch, let's say 4 pieces of creative, immediately LinkedIn's going to choose one favorite and give it the majority of the impressions. One's going to do okay, and then 3, 4, 5, whatever are all going to get like between 1 to 10 impressions. And effectively, if LinkedIn doesn't choose that one of those ads right off the bat, it has the red letter, like it has the mark of death on it, and you'll never be able to bid high enough to get LinkedIn to start showing those ads. So I say, why even bother? Why even take the time to create these additional ad variations when you know some of them won't get enough data to even tell what's working? So we run 2 at a time, and they're always 2 fresh new variants. So if we have a winner, we pause the winner and then launch an exact copy of the winner along with our next A/B test. And that way we can be certain, especially over multiple campaigns, that the actual overall winner is the winner, and it wasn't just LinkedIn making an early call.
Gotcha.